Thanks for joining today. So the agenda, what we'll cover is LiGO mobile overview. So I'll provide you an overview of our LiGO mobile. And then we'll go through some of the, both in the office and out in the field, functionality and applications. From creating jobs in the office to dispatching and routing, route optimization, to scheduling those jobs. And then on the mobile device, being able to use it for multiple purposes. One is as a supervisor, being able to see your vehicles like you would in the office, as well as receive jobs and get turn-by-turn directions to the jobs. And then we'll get back at the very end and just show a report that you can show of completed jobs. And then we'll just, since it's a small group, if you have questions, just jump in if you have questions. So the LiGO mobile is essentially all you have to do is log in via a mobile device, whether it be an iPhone or an Android device, could be a smartphone or a tablet, and essentially use the same URL that you use in the office. And the URL is right there, https://mesa.marshallgis.com. And it will recognize the device type and essentially the user interface, and it will recognize the device and have a different interface based on your mobile device versus in the office. And if you're in the office, you can also use the mobile interface at least to see what it looks like by putting a /m behind the URL here to be able to see the mobile interface. So you have the same functionality that's available in the desktop. You have your map, you can see your vehicles, you can see events, alarms or alerts that are happening, draw tracks, and all those things that you can do in the office. Of course, it's a smaller interface because you're working with a phone. You can turn on the satellite imagery, and the one obviously different thing is it's also part of this is it's a mobile component, so you can receive jobs from the office and then basically get turn-by-turn directions to those jobs or route. So you can have a route as well, and from your mobile device. So so on the back office side, so as someone that's in the office, you can essentially assign those jobs. You can dispatch, and we have a whole module that's called the dispatch module for being able to dispatch individual or multiple jobs to vehicles, and you can look those up by address, or you can go from the map, or you can use, if you have points of interest, essentially you can start from the points of interest. So in other words, if you have buildings that you want or locations that you want the vehicle to start from, you can start from those locations. And then you can schedule those out either individually or as a group, and then you can optimize that route from the office. So you can optimize those, and then you can keep track of those as they're either real time. So you can, in the dispatch window, you can actually see as the different states of the job, if they're in progress or if they are complete or still just dispatched and no one has touched them yet. And then the reports themselves, you can see what's completed in the reports as well. So the dispatch module it's a tab, and it actually starts, if you first log in, it's next to the map tab, and you can, I'll show you this, but you can drag and drop that dispatch tab in different places depending on what works best for you. And you may have a customer service group that's focused on dispatch, so they may have that as a bigger window with the map and less focused on, say, the vehicle list. So again, you can change your workspace or save your workspace based on what's important to you, but again, it's a dispatch tab. For creating the jobs, you can enter in an address to get to the location. You can right-click on the map to create a job. You can right-click on a point of interest to create a job. So the example that I have in the Mesa is the East Customer Service location. For example, you can create a job there. You can start your route from that location too as well. So if you know of a known place and they're going out initially and then they're coming back to the same place, you can create that route from a start and stop. And when you create that, it comes up with a form that you can schedule that information. You can put some basic, it'll automatically put the location based on where you, if you didn't click on the map, it'll just have a blank place for the location, so you can enter it in manually, or you can use the map, or you can use the point of interest, which will automatically put the location in for you. Then you can dispatch that out to a specific worker. And when you pick the drop-down menu, it'll actually give you the closest vehicle to that location, so you can be able to see if it's sort of an emergency situation. You can say, well, this is the closest vehicle. It's TR09 is within a mile, so maybe I want to dispatch it to that particular one, or maybe there's one that has specific driver or equipment that you want to dispatch it to. Next in the dispatch tab, you have next to each person or group, you have it's like a little table, and you can see which jobs are associated to those. But when you click on this, it brings up what's called a jobs list, and you can see the complete list of jobs and the state they're in. So for example, the state as well as the description and other information in the jobs list, and that's a little button next to the right there. And when you bring up the jobs list, you can see, again, the different state of the jobs, whether if it's dispatched, that means it's already been sent out. If it's dispatched, then that means that it hasn't been dispatched, but you could dispatch it right there to someone by clicking the button, dispatch. There's also active. It's not showing here, but if they were actually working on it now, it would say active, and then there's a completed option too once it's complete. So that just gives you sort of a state of all the jobs. Along with the individual jobs, you can create what are called routes. So the routes can be, again, they can be brought in, and for each location you can enter in the start of where they're starting from, and then enter in the individual addresses. Or another way to do it is you can import those in as well. So once you get those in, whether it be adding those in by hand or importing, you can then optimize those, and then it'll essentially find the best route for you and reorder the jobs based on that optimization. If you don't want to do it that way, you can actually add those in, and then you can drag and drop the stops in different orders. So if you have specific orders that you want them to go out on a route, you can just grab and drop them in different locations. You can also add a new one into the route and then just move it into a spot. If you know that you want, immediate attention to something, you could put another stop into that route as well. So this is the route functionality. You can, on the individual jobs, you can set those obviously on a schedule by picking the schedule and time. But you can also, if you're doing the route, you can determine that you want it to be perhaps a reoccurring route where you have them going out and maybe inspecting every Monday, or doing something on a particular day or multiple days. You can check it, and just when you check it, then what it does is it creates that route essentially every day that they have to go out, and they get a new automatic route for them to do for that day, and it's the same stops. And then again, for that day, if for example this particular week you say, well, we want to remove one, or we want to add a new one in there, you could add it into there and do what I was showing before, where you just drag and drop it in the right order that you want and then either re-optimize or just basically reassign those as well. So you can create a reoccurring one that creates every week, or you can always go in and modify it as well. So this is what I was talking about importing. So there's an import option. So when you have the dispatch tab, there's a little drop down. You can import in existing and jobs into the system, and then use that for either a couple things. One, you can use it to see potentially improving routes. So maybe they did a route today and you want to see what they did before. You can use it to sort of improve, or you can use it to actually dispatch. So I guess there's multiple things that you could use that for. You can also add custom fields onto the job. So this gives you the ability to add any fields, and when you go manage fields down below, you can add essentially the field types on there. So they could be a text field, or it could be a value list that they pick from, or it could be a checkbox. So checkbox might be if you're just doing an inspection, you can check the checkbox. And again, that's just so that if you're wanting the field user to enter values in the field, those are ability to add custom fields there. So that's on the office side. That's sort of focused on the office side. Now we're going to get more into the actual mobile side, the mobile piece. I just wanted to give you at least what you can do on the office side. So in the field, you have essentially a simplified user interface for the end user on a phone, because obviously a phone you have less real estate, and it'll again recognize the device and modify the interface based on that. It's essentially any connected device, smartphone, iPad, be Android versus iPhone, or whatever type of device. And there's, again, two purposes. One might be just from a supervisor standpoint, is to see vehicles and do all the things while you're mobile. Again, the other piece might be the actual driver and getting turn-by-turn directions as well. So, and the next step beyond that is to actually add value, add information while they're in the field, and do things, more advanced things you could do, such as chat with users. So with Garmin and Garmin integration, you can do some of the built-in Garmin things like chat and some of those things as well, which I'll show. So when you log on, it should look something like this, where you have a username and password. It's the same username and password that you use when you're in the office, and you essentially log in. And the first thing you're going to see is a map with vehicles based on, again, if you're in transportation, you should see transportation vehicles. If you're in water, you'll see water vehicles. And again, one of the things is you may eventually want to, within each one of your groups, is to create sub-views. So again, you can do similar to how you can in the office, where you can pick from a view and just a subset of vehicles. So you may initially see that, for example, water, if you're just logging into the water, there's quite a few vehicles. I'll show you ways to filter those down, but there's ways to do that permanently, again, with some of those views. So you can see, you'll be able to see if you have jobs that are dispatched to you, there'll be a little green number. There's a settings option on the mobile device where you can make it so that it vibrates or buzzes or makes a noise when those come in. And there's a number of other settings that you can set in terms of the total number of vehicles you want to show and other things, and I can show that as well. So when you go to the dispatch section on the mobile, you'll see a list of jobs, and you can start those. So you can click and start the job, and once you start it, it actually will start keeping track of time that's being spent on that. So say yes, start the job once it's started. And in the office, you can actually see this happening real time as they're say, working on a job or doing things on the job, whether it's active or what's the state of the job. Besides, obviously, working on a job, you can also get the turn-by-turn directions. And the key thing I talked about in the earlier training was that it will depend on the device that you're using, the way that works. So if you're using an Android device, typically it uses the Google Map turn-by-turn direction. It may give you actual audible directions. Same with the Garmin. So the Garmin, if you're familiar with the Garmin, it has a sort of a view of the street where you can see the direction you're going, and then it'll say turn right on this. So it'll actually give you audible directions. And then maybe an iPad or iPhones are a little bit different because they're map technology, but underlying map technology is a little different. But it still does give you turn-by-turn directions, and so based on, and it'll go based on your location to the first job in your list there. You can, again, enter information on the job itself. If you have any custom fields, you can add those in. The jobs will look like a star on the map versus, again, the vehicles will look a little different, and you'll see essentially a star that's associated with the job. All right, so you can then complete the job. You can add comments. You can add other information on the job. And also, so this was a video that we captured beforehand, so just to show the Garmin functionality and how it actually works between the mobile, communicating with the mobile and going back to LiGO here. So I'm going to turn this on. Dispatch it to a Garmin. I'm going to be dispatching the job from LiGO, from the dispatch plugin within LiGO. So I'm going to create a job, deliver it to a live vehicle. The job's going to be check meter, and it's at a specific address, which you've already got. I'll just paste that address in. And I'm going to save and dispatch. And when I save and dispatch, you'll hear that job come in on the Garmin. So I received my job. So I'm going to go to that location where the job is.
Please drive to highlighted route.
And now I'm just going to complete the job. So if you notice, the job in LiGO is currently active. So I'm going to go in and essentially complete the job. So mark is done. So again, notice the vehicle is active. So when I click mark is done, within LiGO, the job will now become complete. So notice that it's been completed. Okay, so that was a video of I did the demo earlier, and it was actually an active job, not an active vehicle. But that's just showing. Again, that could be a Garmin, it could be your phone, it could be a tablet, different options. But that's just going from a Garmin standpoint. You can, of course, working with the Garmin, you sort of see the path of where the vehicle is going, and it gives you the audible directions. So again, it kind of depends on the device, the end device that you're using on the direction side. And then once you complete jobs, we do have a jobs report where you can see completed jobs by user, and as well as any custom fields that might be on the job as well that can be entered. So I'm going to now pop over to the actual application here. And so this, the dispatch is under, there's a Windows dispatch, and there's this tab called dispatch here. So I can drag and drop this if I want to bring it down here, for example. There's this, essentially there's a water mobile user that I've created to show you how I can dispatch jobs out to a user. This is one that I've already created here, which is this water leak job at this location. So this is an existing one. I could come in for this existing one, and if I right click on it, I have the option to dispatch it or edit the job. So if I edit the job, essentially it's the same way. I can enter in an address to go to the location, and it would put in the address here at this location. I could put the schedule on here. So let's say I want to change this to 5 p.m. Let's see, 5 p.m. to 5 p.m. And I'll go ahead and save and dispatch that. So that's going to go to the mobile device, which we'll log on to in a minute here. So that's sort of an existing one, and it's changed color. So each state that the job is in, it changes color. So it's orange. If it actually becomes active, it turns green. So that's one way to do it. The other way, which I showed earlier, is via points of interest. So I'm going to turn on facilities here, which are points of interest, and I'm going to zoom out till, let's see, actually I need to go to the Mesa location here. So here's the customer service center. So if I wanted to start a job or start a route, I could go from a point of interest, a location, to have my starting point. So I can right click, and I have the two options here. I can start a new route from this location, or I can create a job from this location. And of course it puts the location there automatically for me. I can put in my time and say whatever, start from here, something, whatever it might be, and then I can pick who I want to dispatch this to, and go ahead and dispatch this out too. So that's sort of individual jobs. If I wanted to do more of a route, there's this route that we created earlier, and this is a number of stops, and it's a route. So I can edit that route, and so the route lets me do different things, like I can move the stops again wherever I want. If I wanted to reorder these, I can just drag and drop them. I can add additional stops in there. I can, let me see here. Apologize, I got sort of a small screen here. So if I zoom to route, it will show me the complete route. I can do the same thing where I dispatch it to a specific driver, and they get those routes. So that's more of a complete route versus just the individual job. And then the other option is I can import. So I can import information in using import. I can add custom fields onto the job. So this is one I had created earlier today. As an example, is a equipment. All I have to do is just pick the type here that I want, whether it be a checkbox or a list, and I add that field on there. And again, if we notice, if I right-click, create a job, you'll see an equipment option here. So that's just a way to create any custom fields on the job. Now let's pop over to the mobile interface side. So when you should see something like this where you have a login option, and it can remember your last login. So mine was Water Mobile. Here I'll log in, and it should look something like this once it logs in. So I have the vehicles here in my list. Let's see. So I've got vehicles in the list. Sorry. I've got a couple jobs, so let me zoom into an area here. So get down into here. So these are again vehicles in the list here, and then there's also jobs. So I have my jobs view here. I can switch between different. For me, I can switch between different views if I wanted to. So if I wanted to go to transportation view, for example, I could have these vehicles here. So for example, here's this particular vehicle in my list. That little red is actually an alert that's showing. So the green means that it's it just went off my window there. But green essentially means that it's active at the moment. I clicked on it, and now it's giving me information about that vehicle. So it's given me sort of a heading, the current speed. Again, if I have custom fields on the vehicle, it'll show that information. There's a status option, so it can give, again, some of these things can be turned on or off, but it gives status information about that vehicle. Tracks, so you can draw, similar to how on the desktop you can draw tracks. So I can draw a track, and you can pick the day, and it shows the track on the mobile. And then if you want to clear that, you can just hit the wipe here, and it'll clear that back. So let's see. A couple other things I'll show is the settings option. So the settings option allows you to define how you want to view information as well. So you can decide vehicle list, whether you want the type of labels. You can decide what type of maps you want. So whether you want to show alerts or not, so you can turn off alerts if you don't want to show alerts. You can, so by default traffic's not turned on, but you can turn on traffic. So these are just ways to sort of configure it for yourself. Performance, you can decide what the vehicle display limit is if you want to have less displayed. You can set a vibration on or notification essentially, again, if you're working on a mobile device. And then just some other things about jobs, like if you want to just show just the jobs for today, or you want to show jobs on multiple days, you can decide that on the device. So a number of things that you can do on the settings side. Let's see here. So I'm going to, sorry, just a second. I'm going to log out again. Let's see. I'll log out. Log back in again. So here's, again, my list of vehicles. The different colors, the green, if it's green, that means it's active. If it's gray, that means it's turned off. The little map or globe next to the vehicle, if I pick that, it'll zoom into that vehicle. So that just, these little globes allow you to zoom into those vehicles. If I click on the actual vehicle, then it gives me the vehicle information. You just have to remember up on the top, there's a little arrow, so it's sort of focused in on this one vehicle at the moment. But I can basically click back, and then that gives me a full view of my all my vehicles again. So these numbers are essentially clumps of vehicles because you're working with obviously the map. It sort of groups those, so that way when you zoom in, and on the mobile phone you can use your fingers, but once you zoom into an area, then it breaks it out into those individual vehicles. The other way to do that is if you're zoomed out at this level, if we come back here, you just pick the one. You can pick one that you're interested in this way, and it'll zoom in that way. The other way is if you know of a specific vehicle. So, for example, 1949. If I pick 1949, I can just enter that one in, and then it can focus in on that one, 1949, based on the one that I entered there. This number right here means I have 2 jobs that are currently assigned to me. So if I click on that, then it shows this dispatch, and I can click that, and then that'll give me the jobs that have been assigned to me. So as you recall, this was one I did earlier. It's already completed. This is one that I dispatched that was already in the queue. It was in the queue, and I dispatched it, and then this was the one I created based on that point of interest. So if I click on this, it gives me start. As soon as you click start, basically it starts to keep track of the time that you're working on that job. And so from there you can route to that. So I'm working in my office. So this job is down in Mesa. I'm in Boise. So if you're on your phone and you got this, what it would do is it would give you that turn-by-turn direction on your phone. But I'm obviously in Boise, and I'm in the office. So the routing option is going to be it's going to be from Boise to Mesa. So. But trust me, you click that, and it does the same thing that I showed in the video, where it then gives you the route to that location. And then you can finish it and then enter fixed something. And then, so you've finished that. So that one's complete. And then back on the desktop side, you could actually see as those are completed. So if I start this one as well, so it's the reason why it's saying this is again I'm working on a desktop. If you're working on a phone, it won't do this for you. But I'll go ahead and finish this one as well. I just won't put a comment in there. So those 2 are finished, and then back again. So now that those are all completed. So those jobs that were assigned to water mobile here, if I bring up my jobs list, all those jobs have now been completed in the list there. And the other thing is if I actually run a report, so there's a report here called completed jobs, and I'll run that for today. We should see there should be at least 4 jobs that have been completed today, because I did a training earlier. So these are the jobs here that were completed. Again, those can be automatically emailed to someone on a weekly basis as well. So if you, and again on the mobile side, if you filtered it down, just remember click the search again and remove the X. That'll clear your, so that'll get you back to your full list again here. And then I can again see these individual drivers here in my list. So it looks like there's a few that are still out there working here. This one's driving up the freeway here. One note is this little person here, if you click this, it'll actually show your location. So that'll show your current location versus your vehicle. So it'll kind of give you an idea of where you are versus other things. And that's an alert. So if I look at this alert here, I can see that's a speeding speeding alert here that just occurred. So just as a note on the jobs on the mobile, there's also a calendar, so you can see your current jobs, but you can also look on a calendar to see anything that's assigned in the future to you as well. And it gives, again, it'll give a number of jobs on that day that you have based on that calendar view.